This lesson will be your introduction to chemical equations. What is a chemical reaction? A chemical reaction is a chemical change. This means one or more new substances form. So we've gone over chemical and physical changes, and we know that a chemical change is when you get a new substance. So the original substance has been altered, and you get a new substance. It's no longer what you first started with. That is a chemical change. We use chemical equations in a sentence to write out the chemical reaction. So I'm going to go through different parts of a chemical equation that you will need to be able to identify. So right here, parts of a chemical equation. Let's go through all the different symbols that we see. The chemical equation is written below, and there are always two parts to a chemical equation. You have your reactants and you have your products. The reactants are always going to be to the left side of the arrow, okay? And you can think of reactants as the starting materials for the chemical reaction to start. Those are your ingredients. Now the products, those are formed after the reaction. This is what you are left with. The products are always after the arrow. There's the arrow that I'm talking about. The arrow means what was produced, what was formed. Okay, so we have our reactants, that's what you start with, and that's to the left of the arrow. We have our products after the arrow. And your products means what was formed from the chemical reaction. The arrow is going to be what was produced. Now there are different states of matters. As you see, there are different letters in parentheses, right there, right here, right here, and right here. And there are 4 different states of matter. Solid, liquid, gas, you're familiar with. Aqueous means that that substance was dissolved in water. So aqueous, the symbol for aqueous is AQ. For gas, it's the letter G. For liquid, the letter L. For solid, the letter S. So if we look at our first compound, NaCl, right here, in parentheses, it says the state of NaCl is aqueous, plus AgNO3, and the state is aqueous. After the arrow, the 2 products you got were AgCl, right here, and the state of matter for AgCl is an S, so that means it was solid. And for NaNO3, the state of matter, in parentheses, is AQ, which means it was aqueous. Okay? The state of matter will always be in parentheses. Now you see plus signs. The plus sign means that it is not one large compound. It's 2 different compounds. Okay? So, let me clean this up a little bit for you. NaCl is 1 compound, and then AgNO3 is a new compound. We know that because there's a plus sign there. And if we look on the other side, AgCl is 1 compound, and NaNO3 is a different compound because of the plus sign. If there was no plus sign, then it would just be 1 giant compound. Okay? So again, the reactants are on the left-hand side of the arrow, and the products are on the right-hand side. The states of matter will always be in parentheses, states of matter. And there are 4 different states of matter: solid, liquid, gas, and aqueous. Reactants are the original substances of a reaction. You can think of them as ingredients. Reactants are always going to be located on the left-hand side of the arrow. Now the products are the new substances that are produced from the chemical reaction. Products are found after the arrow. The plus sign separates each type of substance. The arrow will separate the reactants and the products. The arrow means yield, what was produced, or what was formed from the chemical reaction. Coefficients. Coefficients are going to be large numbers in front of symbols. If we look at this equation, there are no large numbers in front of compounds. I'm going to show you an example that does. Okay, let's go over here. Here's a compound. This is just an example. Okay, and coefficients are the large numbers in front of the symbol or compound. So what number do we see in front of the letter A? 3. So the coefficient for A is 3. Now, if we look at B and D, there is no big number in front of it, okay? So if there's no coefficient in front of an element or compound, then the coefficient is 1, okay? Just by writing the symbol B, it's letting me know that I have that compound there. So I have at least 1. And the same for D. So again, for B and D, if there's no coefficient in front of it, then the coefficient is 1. What is the coefficient for the letter C? What is the big number in front of C? So the coefficient is 4. Therefore, the coefficients for the equation would be right here. 3, 1, 4, 1. Letter A, the coefficient is 3. The coefficient for B is 1. The coefficient for C is 4. The coefficient for D is 1. Again, the coefficient is going to be the large numbers in front of the symbol. Now we're going to go to subscripts right here. Subscripts is the small bottom number. It's an itty-bitty number on the bottom of an element. The example for a subscript would be B2. The subscript would be the 2, because that is a small number that is attached to the symbol. Coefficients and subscripts are very important, but it's also easy to get. I'm going to go ahead and give you one more example of a coefficient and of a subscript. In this example, the coefficient would be the number 2, okay, because that's the big number. Coefficients are the large numbers. And the subscript would be 3. The subscripts are the small numbers. Okay, so coefficient is the large number, and the subscript is the little number. Now let's go to states of matter. States of matter should be a review for all of us. The states of matter will always be written in parentheses, okay? You see how the S, the L, the G, the AQ are in parentheses? When we see it in an equation, the parentheses indicate a state of matter. So just to review over it, for solid, it would be the letter S, liquid, the letter L, gas, the letter G, aqueous, you would have the letters AQ. One other symbol that you may see at some point during an equation is a triangle. If you see a triangle in the equation, that just means that heat was added. So before you go on to your Google Form assignment over this lesson, let's do some sample equations. So we are going to use this practice equation right here. I know it doesn't look like the one we just went over. We're going to start off with something a little bit easier, and then we'll go down to the second example, but we'll do them both together. So the first question says, how many reactants are there? Remember that reactants are everything to the left of an arrow, and reactants are the original substances. It's what you start with. This is a reactant. This plus sign lets me know that it's a new compound. it's not one compound together. But that is a reactant, that is a reactant, and that is a reactant. So there are 4 reactants. Now it's asking me how many products there are. Products are always to the right of the arrow. There's just one product. I think that triangle got deleted. Letter B says, why is there a triangle above the arrow? And we just went over that if we do see a triangle in a chemical equation, all that means is that heat was added. What is the coefficient in front of water? So we're going to look at water, which is right here. Is there a coefficient? Is there a big number in front of water? There is not. So if there's no number, you just put the number 1. The coefficient, if there's nothing written there, is always 1. Now what's the coefficient for eggs? Is there a big number in front of eggs? Yes, and that number is 3. So coefficient for eggs is 3. How many substances are liquids? So now I'm looking at what's in parentheses, the states of matter. So that's a solid, that's a liquid, solid, liquid, that's a solid. Okay, so I counted 1, 2. There are 2 liquids, there are 3 solids, and there are no gases. There's no letter G, any of those parentheses for states of matter. Okay, let's take a look at this one. How many reactants do you see? Reactants are the original substances. Reactants are always on the left-hand side. There are 2 reactants. How many products do we have? There's just 1 product. List the coefficients in order from left to right. That means you're starting on your left-hand side. Okay, so the coefficient starting from my left side is 2. There's no number there, so I write a 1 and then a 2. So 2, 1, 2. Those are my coefficients in order from left to right. What phase of matter are hydrogen and oxygen? Here's my hydrogen and here's my oxygen, and they're asking about the phase of matter, which is what's in parentheses. Both of those say the letter G, so I know that they are both in the state of a gas. What phase of matter is water? Here's water. It's asking about the state of matter, and that's the letter L, which tells me it's in the liquid state of matter. Hopefully this helps you get a better understanding when you're looking at a chemical equation, and this will help you complete your assignment.